Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's quiet in here today. Nothing running. Everything finished up yesterday. So I'm giving them the day off today so I can have a little peace and quiet in here. So let's see who we got hanging out with us here. We have Mr. John Howard. Good morning, John. Hope you are doing well. Darren Birds is here. Good morning, Darren. Clyde CNC is here. Good morning, Clyde. Keith Stanford. Morning from a very wet New Hampshire. Yeah. We got a good rain here last night. Stormed, actually. But I guess all was well. I hadn't even been outside yet to look around, but I guess it's all right. Monroe Cook's here this morning. Good morning. Troy Pritchard. Good morning. Thumbs up. He says, appreciate the thumbs up. Sean's here. Good morning, Sean. Larry Gaunt's here. Good morning. Steve Gronsky. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Charles Steve. He says, good morning, Jack. Dave and Jack. Yep, Jack's right down here, right at my feet, like he usually is. Our Ballad Designs, a.k.a. Solar Man. How you doing, Ryan? George Rothfuss. Good morning, George. Kevin Els. Good morning. Mr. Sharp. Good morning, Lonnie. And John Howard says, sitting on Highway 465, trying to get to Muncie Chili's. All righty. Is that Highway 65 or I-465? I know where I-465 is. Not sure about Highway 465. Let's see. I don't really have much to talk about. Like I said, we got a good storm last night. In case you're wondering, I was running those things yesterday. I finally give up on that gray. I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and pause it and switch over the black because it was just a test part anyway. It wouldn't have mattered what color it was. And opened up that other black, so I got black hanging on both of them back there now. And started back up, and it started doing okay. And then I thought, nah, it's already got a rough start with that gray, so I'm just going to abort that one and start it over. Because I also saw some things I wanted to change just by pulling up that little thin layer and checking the fit of some things. I'm like, nah, let me tweak this a little bit. So I did that and then started another one. I thought, well, I don't know if I should start because it was like, I don't know, 10:30 or something, and it was already going to be a way into the night for it to finish because that was a long run. And then I thought, well, what the heck? It's on that one, and that's the quiet one, so it's not like it's going to keep me up with the noise. So I went ahead and started it, and both of them finished without any issue. The one on the noisy one finished about 10 till 10, and after that, the other one kept running about another 4 hours or so. But they were, and again, it took less time on the one with the silent board than it did the other one. It took 15 hours and 4 minutes on the noisy one and 14 hours and 50 minutes on the silent one. So I still don't get it, but that's the way they work, I guess. That one's going to be just a little bit quicker over the length of a run than the other one. John says he's on I-465. Okay, that's what I figured you meant. Good old I-465. That thing, I haven't been up there. I guess the last time I was in Indiana was in the fall of 2019. So it's been 2.5 years, I guess, since I've been up there. But holy cow, man, that 465, it's rough. I mean, I don't know if they ever repaved that thing or what, but it's full of potholes, and y'all got some bad, and we do here too. And I guess everybody does everywhere, but there's some bad infrastructure problems up there. That 465 it'll beat you to death driving on that thing. LB's being nosy here, won't know what I make. All in good time, my pretty. It's a top secret project I'm working on. Yeah, it's gonna be a whole bunch of parts and stuff. So I'm not even gonna bother showing any of it until I get ready to spring it all on you, and then you will get to see. But even though the parts I want to tweak on them a little bit, and that was the purpose for using just an off color to run them is. I have to learn these different things with 3D printing because it's not like sheet metal and milling stuff with a router. When you go to mill stuff with a router, if like say I was going to try to mill these out of a big chunk of HDPE on my router, when I draw a cutout and I tell the cutout that I want it to be 20 millimeters by 40 millimeters, assuming I have my calibration set correctly on my CNC, that's what it's going to cut. And it's going to be still within a tolerance, but it's probably going to be within a few thou, whatever however much I've got my CNC dialed in. But with this stuff, when it kind of reminds me of laser cutting. And when I say laser cutting, I'm not talking about the little small, 80, 100 watt CO2 lasers. I'm talking about the big boys, the 3, 4, 5,000 watt lasers that sheet metal shops use. And when they cut a hole, if you have a pair of thick gloves on and you reach down and you pull that part off the laser bed and then take a pair of calipers and start measuring stuff, it will change as that gets cool because everything's, if you got a hole, it's going to be a little bigger when you pull it off when it's hot. And that's why you don't ever QC parts immediately off the laser. You let them cool a minute and then check them because they'll change. Well, apparently 3D printing is kind of like that. You can pull it off the thing there and measure it while it's still warm. It'll be one thing. And then as it sets around and cools, it shrinks up and gets tighter. So I'm still trying to learn how much extra I need to put in there to allow for it to shrink up. And I knew it was going to do that, or at least I figured it would. So I'd already put a little bit in there, but apparently I didn't put enough. So some of the stuff fits, but it's a little bit tighter than I want it to. So I'm going to tweak the design just a little bit. I thought I'd turn this thing off. I usually try to turn this thing off so that I don't get those annoying telemarketers and things when I'm trying to do this. Clyde says maybe the acceleration rate is different on a solid one. Yeah, there's something different. I don't know what it is. But I've noticed even when you home when you home it, it looks like it's moving faster. So I guess that probably what it is, what you're talking about. But yeah, it's it's not a whole lot faster, but it's just enough, just a little bit faster that over a long run like that, it's going to finish a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes before the other one. So Jim Senecola's here. Good morning, Jim. Hope you're doing well. As is Marcelo. Good morning, Marcelo. What do y'all got planned for today? I'm going to I don't know. I really need to get out there and burn up some of my scraps. I've got several skeletons laying around out there and stuff, and I just don't like to let that stuff pile up too much. And today would probably be a good day to burn it up simply because the humidity's high, the dew point's high. We just got a good soaking last night, so I can get out there and even though the stuff I have stacked out there by the fire pit is wet, I always have a bucket of the smaller scraps that I keep in the garage. And plus, if I look around in the shop and the garage, I can find more stuff to throw on there. So I always get it started with that, and then throw the wet stuff on there. And once you get the fire getting hot, it's going to burn that stuff up. So I may try to do that today. I don't know. I've also got my as a fire starter. I don't know what you guys use as your fire starter, but any junk mail that I get that has personal information on it, like somebody trying to get me to sign up for a credit card, or we want to buy your house thing, and they have a picture of my house. Anything that's got personal information on it, I never throw that in the regular trash that goes in my trash pickup. In fact, I just have a grocery bag. I got where I get my groceries. I tell them I want it in paper now instead. I don't want the plastic bags anymore. So I get just a grocery bag sitting over there, and I've put my where I'm pulling my filament off and trimming the ends and that stuff, as well as all my junk mail that has my name and address and all that stuff on it. So that is pretty full. So I'm going to probably take that out there, and I just set it in the middle of the fire pit, light the corner of it, and then start putting the dryer stuff on. And usually it only takes one match, and in a little bit it's a blazing fire. So all right, let's see here. Matter Hatters has charts for each filament, including percentage shrinkage. I think the best thing for, especially if you're designing stuff like I am and you need parts to fit together and stuff like that, the best way to do it is to use the filament that you're going to use, and you run a test part and you just see. That way you can get it dialed in pretty good. I mean, I'm sure the charts are pretty close, but like everything else, if you use that chart, you're using different 3D printers and different heat settings and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of look at that at kind of like one of the CNC feeds and speeds charts. They get you in the ballpark, but you really need to figure them out on your own, I think, to get the best results. Well, he says he's going to redo his waste board. All right. Sounds like a plan. Mr. Santacola, look at him. Taking a bike trip using my e-bike with friends. 20 miles. Wow, look at you. That's how's your wife doing, Jim? Sure, she let's see, she had trouble with what was it? She had knee replacement or something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I hope she's doing well. Clyde says he was going to stain the deck, but it rained last night, so I have the day off. Well, you can always use that for shop time, I would think. Let's see. George says, I hear the story of the new board making the CR3 quiet, but I still scratch my head. You haven't changed any hardware. All right, you're confusing me, George. You're talking in code again. When you say CR3, are you talking about an Ender 3? And if you're talking about my stuff, I have changed hardware because I changed that board. You know, some people call it the motherboard, what control board, whatever you want to call it. Originally, it had a 4.2.2 board in it, motherboard, which is just like the 4.2.7, except for the drivers. It has different drivers on it, which are the silent ones. And there may be some other subtle differences too, but that's the main difference. When you look at the two side by side, they look identical as far as where all the plugs are and everything. But yeah, that would be changing hardware. Let's see. Hendrix Woodworking said he's going to work on some B traps and then flag displays. Man, I don't know why, but for some reason I have been, you know how Facebook, you start seeing these different things. And I've been that and Instagram, which, you know, they're kind of the same thing. But I've been seeing all these things about bee traps, and I'm like, I don't know why they think I want to see this stuff, but I've been seeing a bunch of ads about bee traps. He says he's going to mow. He was going to mow, but not in the rain. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Jim says the missus is doing good. That's awesome. That's good. Lonnie says, my biggest problem is printing bolt holes. Have to oversize them. Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's another thing I'm going to have to tweak. I oversized those by the same amount that I did some other cutouts and stuff. And they're just too snug. And of course, you know, it's no big deal. It's just plastic. I could always drill it out, but you know, when you're running parts, you want them to come right off and be ready to assemble. You want them to be right. So that's the problem. The part came out, or both parts came out really good, except everything that has either an opening or a bolt hole or screw hole, something like that, just a little bit too snug. So, all right, George says Creality Ender 3 control board change out. Yes, I put a whole new board. Hold on here. I have to mess up my boy Jack because he'll maybe not. All right. This, don't ask me why I put this back in the box and threw it on the shelf. I should have just thrown it in the trash, but this is how my new 4.2.7 board came. All in this little static protective stuff. But this is the one that came out of there. Get it apart. All right, I'm gonna hold this up to the camera. I'll let it get focused. Okay, now right in the center in that white box where it says Creality, if you look just below, it says 4.2.7. The new board looks exactly like this, except in that spot where it says 4.2.2, it says 4.2.7. So it was just an exact swap of taking the old one out, pulling I would pull a wire off. Some of the stuff is labeled, like, the different axes and the extruder stuff are labeled. So you don't really have to worry about getting those mixed up. But some wires, not everything was labeled. So I would pull one wire off of the old board, put it on the new board right beside it, and then work my way around getting all the all the boards or all the wires. So, but maybe that makes it a little clearer, George, but that is what I swapped out with that I call it Ender 3 number 1. If you look, I don't know if you can see it. I made some little numbers to put on. So there's number 1, there's number 2. So now when I create my big giant printer farm, I will just keep adding numbers so I know which thing I run it on. But anyway, there's the board. And like I said, I don't know why I put it back in the box and threw it over there on the shelf, because it's not let's see let's see if I can read these problems here or questions. Klondike says it's a good day to clean the shop. Yeah, I suppose it is. Bolt clearance is a 30-second when drilling. Yeah. I'm not sure what that means. It's spa. Is that what you're going to do? Hang out at the spa, Keith? Well, he says the bad thing is Kira now has plugins that would take care of that problem, but I would have to redo all, and there are a lot of designs I have now. Yeah. He says spare parts. Yeah, well, I don't know that that's a spare part, because since my Ender 3 would start up, it would home, it would start up and run, and then just stop moving. The heat would stay on. The nozzle temp and the bed temp would stay on, but it would just stop and then lock up. You couldn't push nothing on the controller. You couldn't do anything. You just had to shut it off and start over. So I don't know that I would consider that a spare part. I would say that that's a bad part, because when I replace that, now it all works right without doing anything else. So I wouldn't. In fact, if somebody said, "Hey, let me have that board, I want to try it," I'd give it to them if they wanted it, but it's probably a waste of time because it doesn't work, as far as I can tell. So, like he said, it was just fat fingers. Yeah. I need to go ahead and throw that away, I guess. But really happy with the way those things are running. Let's see, George says, looking at your Ender 3, I can see some great add-on parts. The fan cover, the tool holder, and there is that PLA part that directs the direction of the flow. What else have I done? Well, I guess technically I can't say that they're stock, but really the improvements or things that I've added shouldn't really enhance the performance of it. The the main reason I did that, these things here I have on both of them, and I showed you the old style, the one I was using, but those little arms that come out. And then I also made, and I showed that during one of these earlier coffee sessions, where I had that little thing with the roller that I put right there. The only reason I did those is because the very first spool of material I bought was that gray, and it was just wound wrong or something. It kept hanging up, getting over itself. And that was my attempt to straighten out that problem. Now, when I got this second one, when I first started running, because this, if you remember, when I got the second one, this one wasn't running. I hadn't bought that new board yet, so it wouldn't work at all. It was just sitting on the floor over there. So when I got ready to run this one, I didn't have this little arm on it, and I didn't have that little wheel. So I was just running it pure stock as far as the way the filament feeds, and it ran fine. But when I got the board and then fixed this one, and then I thought, well, let me put those arms on it, put that little thing. And when I'd ran that little thing with um, the little V wheel that helped guide the filament in, I ran two of them because it only took a few minutes to run. So, and I probably need to run two more and replace them because you can't really see it. I don't think you can see it good enough, but both of those are gray. They will run out of that gray stuff, but everything else I've done and put in black. So I don't, that may or may not be needed. I think if you have a decent spool, you don't really need it, although it doesn't hurt anything. So I put it on there. And then the other thing is that fan cover, which again doesn't really enhance the performance. It's just more of a preventative thing to keep junk from falling in the fan. The other thing is that little cover that goes on the underside of the control because they got that bent piece of metal and then they put the control board on the back and it's just open. So if you reach your hand back there, you're going to touch some stuff or whatever, may screw something up, short something out or whatever. And it just looks cleaner to have that on there. So I ran one of those, but again, that's not going to enhance the performance. It's just more of a cosmetic thing. But if you're into doing the gadgets and wanting to do, that's why I always fuss about some guys that get a 3D printer and then spend the next month running things to upgrade it. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just spend more money and get a better print that had all that stuff? You know, so I'm most of the stuff I'm putting on there is either cosmetic or the lone exception is that arm to try to help the filament. And they do make if you go look on Thingiverse, man, they've got and there's other ones too. That Colt, what is it called? Colt 3D, and there's one called Thangs, THANGS.com. But Thingiverse is usually the one I go to first because it's been around probably the longest. But if you go look, there's all kinds of things for an Ender 3. I have not changed anything as far as I'm not sure if this is what you were talking about when you was talking about the PLA part that directs the direction of the flow. Now, I got the thing directing trying to create the filament movement, but I haven't put anything on here to change the fan. That's all stock. The hot end and all that's stock. I haven't changed anything and don't plan to. So anyway, George says, I like the board cover. It's just easy to roll your fingers under and touch. Yeah. Yeah. You have to. And before I was always kind of conscious of that. And I would just use one finger to poke the button and turn it. Because if you start getting in the habit of laying your hand in there, it's easy for your fingers to curl right around there. And next thing you know, you're touching that stuff and might mess it up or whatever. But anyway, it's just a cleaner look, and the covers fit great. Again, I don't know why they don't put some of that stuff on these to start with, but I guess they're trying to make them as cheap as they can. And you got a 3D printer, so you print your own. Anyway, I guess I'm going to get out of here. Tomorrow's the big 500. This has been coffee session 499, so we'll knock out 500 tomorrow. So everybody have a good Thursday. Try to stay dry and cool, because I know if you're not getting rain, it's probably really sticky where you're at. I'm dreading going outside now because I know it's. I already saw what Joanne said the humidity and the dew point was, so it's going to be sticky, but it will make it a good day to go out there and burn up my stuff. I can get it burned up in a few minutes and then quit. So, all righty, everybody have a good one. We'll see you later, and take care.